Good morning. Do we have Tanisha? Have we turned off everyone's video?
Let me double check to make sure.
Okay.
I think since we're in webinar view, we won't see the participants.
Gotcha.
I see. I
Right.
see. We have a webinar here. All right. Good morning, everyone. We know you're there. We can't turn on your screens, unfortunately. We're coming to you with this webinar this morning for the Perkins Equitable Access and Opportunity Program, RFA. Sincere welcome to each one of you. I'm glad to have you all here. Now, because we've had some staffing changes, we're a team of fairly new Zoom operators. Tanisha Shorter-Lott, who many of you know, has stepped up to do this. So bear with us if we're a little clunky today. That said, let me just go ahead and start this webinar. Go ahead and advance the slide, please, Tanisha. We're not sharing screen.
Don't share the screen?
No, we need to share the screen.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on one second. Share screen. Got you.
There we are. Okay. Good morning. Let's go ahead and advance the slide. And here you see our agenda today. Welcome and an introduction to the RFA, review of the evidence tiers, which we used last year and for which we have resources on our website. The application parts, the cover page, certifications, submission requirements, and we hope to leave generous time for questions this morning. Go ahead and advance the slide, please. Now then, this is where I will give you Dr. Tina Jackson's greetings. Dr. Jackson, our Assistant Commissioner for Workforce Education here at the Coordinating Board, was called away today, sends her regrets, and sends also her greetings to each of you who are here, and conveys her excitement about this program entering its second year and our enthusiasm for seeing it as it moves forward. We look forward to working with other good folks this year, in addition to the ones we're working with who have FY23 grants already. And I convey that on behalf of Dr. Jackson. And before we move on, I'd like to introduce the Coordinating Board staff who work on Perkins program. I'm Mindy Nobles. I'm Director for Community and Technical Colleges in the Workforce Education Division. I will ask each of you individually, Tanisha, Chandra, Dwayne, and Ed, and Demetria, to introduce yourselves in turn, name, title, position. Why don't we start with you, Tanisha?
Good morning to everyone. My name is Tanisha Shorter-Lott, and I am a program manager director with Community and Technical Colleges.
Thank you. Chandra.
I have to unmute myself. Good morning, I'm Chandra Harmon. I am also a program director in the Workforce Education Division.
Thank you, Chandra. Dwayne Hiller.
Yeah, Dwayne Hiller, I'm program director for Workforce Education in Community Technical Colleges Division.
Thank you, Dwayne. It does sometimes just become a mouthful, doesn't it? And coming to us from her orbit around our planet this morning is Demetria Edwards. Would you introduce yourself, Demetria?
Yes, I'm Demetria Edwards, and I am helping out, acting as a program director, helping with the assignment.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. And let's go on to the next slide. Okay, very good. We're going to begin with an introduction to the RFA this morning. I will let Tanisha get us started on that. Now, please know that I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to try to not interrupt you with my cough this morning to the extent possible. Everyone has a cough once in a while. It's my turn this morning. So I'm going to go off screen and mute myself. Tanisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mindy. Thank you for that warm welcome. Please note that during this webinar, we will save all of our questions towards the end. We'll allow about 10 to 15 minutes for questions. So make sure you write them down and wait to the end. All right, so let's get started. Let's do the introduction to the RFA. The Evidence-Based Equity RFA is similar to other Perkins RFAs. The following slides introduce components of the Equity RFA with emphasis on new and updated requirements. So section 1.2, a synopsis of the program. This is a competitive grant program utilizing Perkins State Leadership Funds. The funds will support high-quality evidence-based programs for student equity. And the purpose of this is to increase equitable access to CTE programs and equitable opportunities for success. Our target audience is new and current students with documented barriers to attaining high-value credentials, and those students are special populations. Section 2.1 of the RFA speaks to the award amount. The coordinating board intends to award grants up to $500,000 for projects advancing access and success for Perkins special population students. Now, this is the first time this year that we're offering a cap on the projects. Awards are dependent upon availability of funds. Section 8 of the RFA speaks to the application process. Applications will be reviewed by 2 review teams, and that's the application evaluation team and a tier evidence evaluation team. The PEAOP program will exist in the Perkins portal for FY24. We're super excited about that because, as you know, last year, our FY23 PEAOP program, it was manually done. So we're excited about it existing in the Perkins portal. The pre-proposal application and all reporting will be automated. As I mentioned, new for FY24, the PEAOP program will utilize a pre-proposal process similar to Perkins State Leadership Program. So this year is a little bit differently with the PEAOP. We're going to offer a pre-proposal process. Section 6 of the RFA goes into the program description. And as you can see, the awards to institutions that design evidence-based program for students in the Perkins 5-9 special populations category. And as you can see on the slide, those are the 9 special populations. The goal is to advance sustainable evidence-based approaches to equitable access and opportunity for CTE students and target audience. And the general requirements for this grant is designed to make a significant scalable impact on the recruitment and support of students in target audience, sustainable after the program period toward ongoing impact on the institution's current and future students, and the project must clearly show through application narrative and evaluation plan that is trackable and a student cohort exists. That is new to the Section 6 program description. The core purpose of Texas evidence-based grant-making approach is to support and develop high-quality evidence-based programs in Texas, while allowing colleges the flexibility to propose new programs for which data do not exist. Section 7 of the RFA, Texas evidence-based grant-making, speaks to those. And as you can see, 7.1 is a glossary of evidence terms, 7.4, evidence tier definitions and requirements, which my colleague Mindy will talk a little bit further. Section 10 of the RFA speaks to instructions for completing the application. This section provides further information on the application cover page, determining evidence tiers, programmatic narrative, and budget. Section 12 of the RFA speaks to the application and evaluation criteria. For FY24, the application evaluation points have been refigured to include points for student cohort and trackable outcomes and sustainability. As mentioned in a previous slide, a student cohort and trackable outcomes must clearly show through application narrative and evaluation plan that both exist. And the project is sustainable after the grant period towards ongoing impact on current and future special population students at institutions. So as you can see, the application evaluation points have been reevaluated to include student cohort and trackable outcomes and sustainability. The tier evidence bonus points remain the same. The RFA appendices. Appendices of the RFA are similar to past RFAs. Please note that in Appendix B, the program application found in the FY23 RFA has been removed for the FY24 application. Why? Because the application is existing in the portal for FY24. Mindy?
Thank you, Tanisha. Go ahead and try to come back on here. And I'll go through the evidence tiers review with you. And let me just make a bit of an historical note here. Evidence tiers are a component of the evidence-based grant-making model, which is a national model developed by Results for America. We have our state version developed by Fellowship working with Results for America, and have done a trial run last year with, or this past year, to develop our FY23 PEAOP grants. And we are moving now into our second year with some revisions into FY24. Now, it occurs to me that I should explain the acronym PEAOP. I don't think we've done that yet. We throw PEAOP around a lot. We call it PEAOP. That's an acronym for Perkins Equitable Access and Opportunity Program, PEAOP. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, as I come here to these these program tiers, and I'm going to go through each one of them with you as though you are all unfamiliar, though some of you may be by now. I want to point out that we have a tool in the RFA. In fact, go ahead to the previous slide, Tanisha. Yeah, section 11.12.2 in the RFA, determining evidence tiers, will guide you in determining what evidence tier you should incorporate into the RFA. And this is going to be pointed out later, but I'm going to go ahead and point it out now. Points for evidence tiers are bonus points. They can increase your score, but they are not going to keep you from making a score on the application of 100. They will simply add to the good you've already done. Let's go on back to the next slide. Okay, and okay, these are our first 3 tiers of 5 established as part of the model that we do use. New program tier. Now, having evidence-based applications does make it sound as though you ought to have a body of evidence in order to be able to apply, but no. We want all your projects, whether newly conceived or with a track record, locally or with a national track record. You get different pointages for different tiers. However, this new program tier, this is somewhat akin to our old longtime leadership grant model, you can bring your good idea, make the case for it, and we will review it as we would any application. Now, an applicant using the new program tier has no evidence of effectiveness. Why? Because it's a conception, it's new. You're still trying to bring the idea into full expression on paper. You should explain, if you apply under the new program tier, why the proposed program will achieve the outcomes specified, the outcomes you're writing to, and demonstrate that there is capacity to collect sufficient data to track outcomes. Let me give you an example of that. We had a very good-willed and I thought possibly effective idea a couple of years ago, or maybe that was last year, to install some new telecommunication equipment at all sites where CTE students study. It would have caught both special population students, which is not a part of this program, or which is a part of this program, but also all CTE students. So there was no potential really for tracking the performance of special populations students who might have used that equipment. They would be students enrolled in a classroom. They were not part of a cohort whose program participation we were trying to keep on top of and track whether the program was effective for these students. In fact, it was an equipment grant, and we just did not believe we could accept that application. Now, that's what I mean by demonstrating there is capacity to collect sufficient data to track outcomes. You must have a trackable cohort and demonstrate that you have the capacity to collect sufficient data to track the outcomes of this cohort. And I'll move on to the experience program. Now, this is another program where you don't have data yet. You've operated this program at least 1 year already on a local level, and you would like to scale it through this grant, add features to it, work toward its sustainability. And your evidence is going to be participant success stories or other testimonials. You're going to build that anecdotal evidence for the experience tier. And this, again, this must be something that you've operated locally for at least 1 year. Now let me go on to the program, the performance program tier. Performance. For this tier, data have been generated, and you are able to use data in your application to demonstrate effectiveness. For this project at this tier, data provided must be outputs and outcomes data from a program or programs that you have conducted during the past 5 years. So this is one where you have a track record, a data track record, more so than anecdotal participant success stories. You must have data to demonstrate programs' effectiveness historically, showing that the program creates an intended change, the intended change in participants, and that participants show a positive outcome as a result of participating in the program. And I'll go on to say that an applicant must have historical output and outcome data for at least 2 years that you can submit with the application. It can be directly collected, or it can be from a similar program that you would like to adopt yourself, but this similar program has a body of evidence. You can present that to us. Let's go on to the next slide, please. Okay, Now we get into the lofty heights of the high or moderate evidence program tiers. For the moderate, really the main difference in the two is that moderate has at least one study, and high evidence has 2 or more studies. That's a core difference. These studies must include a comparison group. This is for the moderate tier. And it has to have a statistically valid technique to assess causation. Now, what do we mean by that? You want to be able to separate non-related factors in a student's life that aren't the direct result of the program toward the student's success. Programs study must also show, the study that you cite must also show that a program has both a positive and meaningful outcome, and that there is a modest degree of confidence that the outcome is primarily caused by the program. Now, let me go on to the high evidence tier. There's 2 or more. Well-designed, well-implemented, random controlled trials, or an interrupted time series study that includes both a comparison group and a statistically valid technique to assess causation that eliminates or minimizes confounding factors. For the high evidence tier, studies must have had minimal attrition. In other words, they were able to retain program participants. Studies must show that the program has both a positive and meaningful outcome, and that there is a high degree of confidence that the outcome is primarily caused by the program and not other incidental factors. Now, where are you going to get these studies? You have sources down here. We have the Causal Evidence Guidelines, version 2.1 at clear.departmentoflabor.gov. And these are studies that you can find one or more of and adopt as your program model. You could show us how you're making changes in this and why you believe they should be maintained or made. And you can build a new program for yourself around this program with an evidence set, or these programs with evidence sets that show it would likely be successful in your local institution. Let's go ahead to next slide. Okay, and I will go through, I will introduce this. I believe this is yours, Tanisha.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. very
All
much.
right, Tanisha, it's all yours.
So the next couple of slides, we will discuss the application parts, cover page, and certification pages. All forms except the application can be found on the program website. And as you can see, the website, and all these forms are fillable PDFs. So in the previous slide, I did mention that we will have a proposal component. So in order to compete for this project, you must fill out a pre-proposal in the Perkins portal. These P's are making my tongue tied. Pre-proposals will determine if a project is accepted to a complete and full application. The application, as I mentioned, is completed in the Perkins portal. And if it is accepted, the narrative portion of the application must be separated by hard returns into paragraphs by readability. Applications submitted without paragraphing would be returned for correction. There is no word limit to the narrative section. Mindy?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am.
I got distracted reading our first question in Q&A. I'm here. Let me go on to, are we on slide 19 here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Everybody knows the performance improvement plan, also known as the performance evaluation plan.
Oh, sorry.
Stay there. You have these for all leadership grants. And this one is similar. Upgrades this year, it can be completed in the Perkins portal. And for the first time, it must clearly identify trackable activities around a student cohort that can be tracked. So your PIP or PIEP must identify activities around a trackable student cohort, and your goal is to show in the end that those activities based in the program did have an impact on the student cohort. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, and we've got budget forms here. Good old A through G, except that you may not use C, capital expenditures for the PEAOP program. You'll complete these in the portal just as you complete your budgets for other grants. And let's go on to the next slide. Okay, cover page and required certifications. Tanisha, correct me if I'm wrong. We have posted these on the PEAOP page with the RFA, correct?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
We have, and these are fillable, correct?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Yes. We've been able to give you fillable cover page and required certifications. We don't have any more printing these out or editing these using Adobe Pro or anything like that. You will have pre-fillable forms for the required certifications and for the cover page. You will, as always, transmit these by email. You must use the subject line that you see here. Required signature pages, institution's name. This will help us differentiate it, make it stand out from the other emails we receive. This will go to the Perkins Equity address on the coordinating board's email apparatus. And we've had questions over time about whether electronic signatures are allowable. Yes, they are. I think we're all universally almost using electronic signatures, but we still mention that just in case anybody is not aware that they can do this. Let's go on to the next slide. Next. Okay, submission slides. This is mostly a set of due dates. Pre-proposal due on the 5th of April. Application, the performance evaluation plan and the budget forms must be submitted as the full application by May 17th. Cover page, other certifications that are required must be submitted 1 week after the application and its components by May 24. And we caution you here, missing documents may hinder evaluation of your application or could even result in denial of the application. So I caution you, something to take care of if you apply for the PEAOP grant for FY24 is completion of all parts of the application and submission of all required elements of the application on time. We don't accept late applications. That's in the RFA, and we can't make exceptions to that. So plan ahead. And because it's a competitive grant, we can't make exceptions to it. And make sure you got your dates on your calendar for getting this in. Please notice that we've moved all time deadlines to 11:59 p.m. I don't know if any of you have ever been in the position of trying to get that thing all wrapped up at 2 minutes before 5 and you discover one little detail. We're not doing that anymore. 11:59 is your time deadline for each of these due dates. And let's see, let's go on to the final slide. Yes, and here you see the full application calendar as it's published in the RFA. We're on February 15th here for the webinar. Please note that we have tried to allow what we believe is enough time for everyone to submit pre-proposals, for everyone to submit applications. We have tried not to make this rushed for you. And let me note this. I am the point of contact for this RFA. If you have questions about elements of this RFA or about grant submission requirements, please email me. We're bound by the RFA just as you are. So you should not contact your usual grant advisor for questions about the RFA itself and completing the application itself. Now, when should you contact your grant advisor? For everything else. But I do want to emphasize that you should use the point of contact. The reason we have the point of contact is to provide for consistency in responses. And we're obligated to follow that point of contact protocol. All right, I think we are on the last slide, yes. Have we left plenty of time for questions? I believe we have. We've got ample time. And we have with us Chandra Harmon, introduced at the beginning of this RFA, who will take chats in Q&A. Tanisha, I wonder if we might be able to unmute everybody so that they could ask auditory questions too.
I can try and see if we can do that. And I think in webinar mode, let's see.
While she's working on that, Mindy, we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A section.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead and get started. All right, so the first one is, can institutions of higher education that received Perkins Equitable funds last year qualify for the funds again this year?
The short answer is yes. We've made no such restrictions in the RFA, so you may indeed.
All right. The next question is for explanation regarding the completion tracking expectations. For example, difficulty reaching a cohort student due to change of phone number, email address, and things of that nature.
Oh, yes. And this is always an issue, those students who disappear. And as all of you will be aware, for students that can't be found in other way, we have the CB 116 report that is, I'm sorry, the CB, Dwayne, is it CB 116?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. We have a rule 116 too, folks, that I've been dealing with lately. So, but report 116, the survey, can be used to reach out to those whom you cannot find. Now, of course, you're going to be tracking these students both on an interim basis and as follow-up basis. I think follow-up is where you're likely to begin losing them. All I can say about that is we know it's not perfect, but we haven't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and we do want you to follow through earnestly with post-grant tracking and determining of outcomes, even if you don't have it comprehensively. We will be providing some programmatic support for evaluating outcomes this year that we were not able to provide last year. We have that in the works right now. And if there are any continuing questions on that, please let me know.
Okay, the next one basically is kind of sort of the same, but it wants to know if they received the PEAOP last year and it ends in August of 24, are they allowed to continue on or renew what's existing through the RFA?
Continuation grants for PEAOP grants. Dr. Sobey, that's a very good question. Quite candidly, we haven't addressed continuation grants. We would presumably do these on a one-year continuation basis. I'm going to tell you that we will have to study that in part because of our funding limitations. We've split our leadership funds into our general leadership program and our PEAOP program. If we have revenue, however, I do not see why you couldn't apply for a one-year continuation of your existing grant.
Okay, we're going to move on to Ms. Jordan. Can we use our CLNA for the data research required for this grant?
Well, that would depend entirely on the specifics of the CLNA data. If it's straightforwardly relevant to your program, your proposed program, you may. If you are just wanting to use general background data, if you have the data and it's part of an overview of how you're going to be effective or some other general category like that, I certainly think you could. And let's go back one. We've got one that's answered that Dwayne has asked to answer live. Could we go to the answered questions?
Sure.
I'm sorry, no, I was just getting them out of the open.
Of course,
library.
of course. Go to the answered questions, middle tab there.
Yeah, these are the questions that we've already answered.
Right. The questions we've already answered, one of them was the question you wanted to respond to live. Am I correct?
No, I was just getting it out of the way.
Okay, so you don't want to respond to a question.
No,
live.
you've already answered it.
Okay, very good, very good.
But Ms. Nobles, this is Christine Stanley from Austin Community College. Can I ask just very quickly?
Of course.
So correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like what I'm hearing is that if we have an active grant, equitable access grant that we got last year, we can apply under this competition for a completely new project, or we can apply under this competition to extend what we already have for another year. Did I hear that correctly? So like we would be applying to extend our grant that ends in 2024 into 2025?
You would be applying for that next year. You would be applying for a 2025 grant, and that application cycle will take place in FY24.
Next, okay.
And we are still, as I told, I believe it was Dr. Sobey, we are still going to have to study this.
Right.
To make sure it will stay between the lines on the funding availability.
Okay, so if we have an existing, the only reason why we would participate in this competition is if we're interested in doing a completely different project
That
than
is
what we
correct.
have going on.
That
Okay,
is correct. For this
Okay,
year,
thank
that is
you.
correct. Okay.
Awesome.
All right, maybe we still have a few more in the chat. Let's go back to Ms. Silva.
Okay.
Okay, so basically her question says, last year I asked if funding could be used to purchase tools and equipment needed by CTE students. We were told we could if we could find evidence-based data. I researched and couldn't find any information to support the need. Do we need to use What Works Clearinghouse?
Now, this purchase of tools and equipment, this would be intrinsic to your PEAOP program that you're applying for?
Yeah, so what we were wanting to do, Ms. Nobles, I know that Temple and San Jac have programs where they assist students with mileage. And we thought we'd take it one step further. A lot of our students in our HVAC programs, welding programs, et cetera, can't afford the equipment that they need for these
Mhm.
programs. And keeping in mind Perkins Basic, the Perkins Basic grant, you know, we thought if we purchase tools and assign them to the students and they carry it with them throughout the course of their program, and then once they graduate, you know, they already have the tools they need for employment, it kind of meets the Perkins goals. So, however, I wasn't able, I went into the What Works Clearinghouse to look for articles that supported or to find institutions that were assigning tools to students and allowing them to keep them, and I couldn't find anything. So I
Mhm.
kind of wanted to get feedback and, you know, as to whether this is allowable.
Well, and this is a good question because you're trying to make students able.
Yes.
You're trying to equip them to succeed, go into the workforce, and make a career for themselves. As a general principle, we have discouraged colleges with leadership grants funded by leadership funds, from doing things that you can do with the basic application. If these students qualify as special population students, they can be funded for this through the basic grant. We want program components in these PEAOP grants to be directed toward transformative student success. And by transformative, we throw that word around a lot. I mean, services, training, orientations, support, whatever the college deems appropriate to send that student forth and track that student through to a successful employment and maybe even beyond. Tools and equipment are a pervasive part of basic, and that's kind of why we've asked colleges to spend money on programmatic features and not these basic instructional costs.
Okay. Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, it does. I just have, so I've tried to submit this through the Perkins Basic, but internally, they reject it every time. So I'll try harder.
Now, you don't mean we reject your expense.
No, I'm saying internally, our compliance
All
team.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We want those special populations equipped to succeed. Okay.
Thank you.
Next.
Ms. Fuentes, just to confirm, we have a 2-year PEAOP.
You answered my question. I'm right here. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that this is for a new project and you are very clear. So thank you so much. And I always say this, you are like the best team ever. Thank you so much. You are so kind and patient and helpful. Thank you. But yes, my question was answered. Yes, it would be for a new project.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you, Angelica. And thank you for your kind praise there. I'm going to tell you in return that I'm going to speak for myself, but I am certain I speak for everyone present. Our partners in the field are the true heroes. You're out on the front line, and I mean that, heroes. You're not getting rich doing this work. You're busy making a difference in people's lives that is going to generate forward into the decades and even make a difference in your students' children's lives. You're the guys doing that work on the ground. I turn that same praise back around to you. It's a thankless job sometimes to be a community college administrator or professional. It is, however, the means by which we make a difference across the decades and across the generations through career and technical education. So thank you. Okay. Next.
All right, we have about 2 more questions. The next one is from Ms. Jordan. It says, will this grant replace the basic Perkins grant?
That's a good question. The answer is no. And let me explain that a little bit. Perkins Leadership Funds are a statutory carve out from the total of the funds a state receives. So leadership funds are not part of the basic grant. And we are obligated by federal statute, the Perkins 5 statute, to distribute the formula or basic funds. That program goes on whatever use we make of leadership funds for the students and programs of the state. So no, it will not. In the future, we may find ways to kind of meld our two separate leadership programs, but they will remain leadership programs.
Miss Mindy?
Okay, and the other one, I'm sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Thank you, Miss Mindy, for answering that question. And just to clarify, so we could apply for the PEAOP grant and receive the basic Perkins grant. I do apologize, our landscaping, they're mowing our grass. So if there was a
Oh, be
more
reassured, it's not showing up on audio.
Mm.
So yes, you can always apply for both if that was your question, leadership and basic. They
Yes,
will
ma'am.
remain two separate programs. Does that answer your question, Amanda?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Next question, Chandra.
Where can I find the RFA?
Oh, well, can we do a little bit of show and tell, Tanisha?
Let's see what we can do.
Can you go to the website and share screen? Or you could perhaps just start on the homepage and track us all the way.
Yes, I will try. Give me a second.
Dwayne has provided the link also.
Great.
So I'm going to share screen.
Dwayne, did you put the link in chat?
If the link is
Yes.
already in chat, it directed you to the
Well, no.
coordinating boards. You okay, Dwayne?
I'm sorry. It's in the Q&A.
Ah, okay, very good, very good. Okay, thanks.
So just to give you a brief map of where the RFA is located, if you go to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board's actual website, it is under the Perkins Equity Access Opportunity Program request for applications.
Before we look at that, go back, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And can I ask you to go back further to the coordinating board homepage?
Homepage. Okay.
Yes, here we are. Now, if you want to start at the homepage, just for anybody who hasn't yet figured this out, because we're all still learning to navigate this new website. Look at, I believe it's our work. Pull that down.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. Our work. Go to equipping our workforce. And scroll down. Here you see various categories, workforce education related. Go up to career and technical education and click learn about the initiatives. And here you see our entire workforce education content. Go ahead and scroll down through that a little bit, Tanisha. Okay. And go back up. Once you're on that page, click on Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education. Click on learn more about the CTE. That's kind of clunkily expressed, isn't it, everybody? And here's the page that Tanisha was starting at. I just wanted you to have the full path, and you can also use Dwayne's handy dandy link. So go ahead, Tanisha.
So as you can see, once I click on this plus sign, download request for application, application cover page, certification regarding lobbying, disclosure of lobbying activities, and the FAFATA certification. So all of the documents are located on the webpage.
Yes, and thank you, Tanisha. And of course, you see the RFA for 24 in bold there. Now, the FY23 RFA was accidentally removed, as were last year's webinars. We are working to have those restored. We have last year's evidence-based webinar presented jointly with TEA and Results for America. I'm sorry, TWC and Results for America. That should be part of this body of content. We're going to restore that content as quickly as we can.
Yes.
We have another great question from Ms. Fontenot,
Great.
who's new to the Perkins area in general, and she'd like to know some previously funded projects.
Previously funded projects?
Yes, ma'am.
We don't have those posted to the PEAOP website, do we?
No, we don't.
Okay, that's a practice we need to begin, just as we do with the basic leadership grants. We have some current grantees in the audience. I'd like to ask one or two of you to describe your programs briefly. And I'm also going to let everybody know that you should attend our our annual leadership grant convening, in which grantees in groups submit to you or present to you the work they're doing on their approved projects, both for leadership and for PEAOP. You can get the lowdown on those at the webinar. Give the date for that, please, Tanisha.
It is February 22nd and 23rd. You all should have received communication on how to register for that convening.
Okay. But let's see who's here. I know that Dr. Sobey is here. Amarillo's got a very good PEAOP grant. Do we have any other PEAOP grantees here? You can raise your hand if you have a grant. Okay, nobody's fessing up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry, my hand won't raise. I don't know for what reason it won't click. Did it raise?
Yeah, I see.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. So my name's Angelica Fuentes, and I'm from Texas Southmost College, and we have a fiscal year 23 PEAOP grant. And so we are using it. We have 3 goals. The first goal was to facilitate special student population access to basic needs through college campus services and community-based organizations. Goal 2 is to enhance the quality of instruction in career and technical education by implementing high-impact instructional practices within CTE courses, partnering with local businesses for work and learn opportunities for our special populations, and other activities in that one. Also ensure embedded industry recognized certification support for our special populations. And then last, to embed academic support for our CTE students, our special populations. So we're identifying all the special populations among our CTE population, and we're seeing what other academic supports. We did a big assessment last semester, and now we're honing down on what we can do to support them through their program. And it's really taken off, especially the CBO, and we'll talk about it during our presentation, but the CBO work that we're doing, we're building a CBO coalition, and it started in the proposal. I'm happy to say that we talked about hosting CBOs on our campus to give students the need, if they need funding, because they need more than just tuition, and we have scholarships, but they need help with everything else. And so it started with, we're going to host a few CBOs, which we're starting this semester, but I'm happy to report that the college is so invested that they gave us a building. Like, we have a new Leitner, a center that we're fixing all the offices, and we're going to host more CBOs and, and other areas that that we're seeing a need for. And so we're going to host them. And so we're so excited. They're actually working on the building right now. And I mean, we don't have a lot of funding for that part, but the college is investing in that. And so we're excited that this grant got, our administration on board of like, maybe we need more than just giving them 3 or 4 offices. Maybe they need more. And so it's great. We're really excited about that, but we'll share more details at our presentation that we look forward to presenting.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else want to volunteer, including Dr. Sobey, whom I called out? It was not my intention to obligate you.
Johnson's hands is Tina Johnson has her hand raised.
Well, let's go to Tina.
Hi, Tina. In the meantime, Angelica, we have a question. What does CBO stand for?
Yes, community-based organizations, and I'm putting it on I'm putting it in the chat. Community-based organizations, and I am from Texas Southmost College. That was the other question for me. Thank you.
Hi, Tina, do you still want to share?
Okay, we are coming to the very last minutes of this. Any other questions? And you may deliver them verbally or pop them into the chat right quick. Or into the Q&A rather. Well, let's ask. Okay, I see that Dr. Sobey has volunteered to share. Could I ask you to do so in our closing minutes? This was another.
And I'll try to be brief.
Good application, please.
So Amarillo College for our PEAOP partnered with Inside Track to provide a success coaching model based on their retention methodology that focuses, in our case, on single parents and CTE programs. And what our success coaches provide initially is needs-based assessment with their caseload of single parents to identify what barriers they have and connect them with our institutional resources to support them, and then provide ongoing support in the form of one-on-one meetings over the course of the term, managing their performance in each of their classes, and really just being highly intrusive with the goal of retaining them from term to term and enabling them to be successful in their courses. And it's been very promising thus far. We're very excited.
Thank you, Dr. Sobey. And in case you missed it, I'll point out that Dr. Sobey is with Amarillo College. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and just bring into the play this last question I see in Q&A. Will slides and recording be available on the side? I'm going to give you an emphatic yes, ma'am. We are still working to get removed content restored. That includes, slides and recordings and this year's RFA. We will certainly be uploading this recording and all of the slides that go with it. Okay, we're coming close to close. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for joining us today. I'm very happy with this good turnout. I would like to thank you most profoundly for the work you're doing at your respective community college. Several of us on this staff have worked for or spent careers at community college prior to coming to the coordinating board. I know on the ground from experience the difference that community colleges make. And I thank you for that service that you give, and I thank you for your interest in this grant, which we believe has the potential to take those students with the most barriers to success in college and help them to grow and bloom. So I thank you for that. We stand adjourned. Now, Follow up with your grant advisor always about any non-RFA related questions. For RFA related questions, please follow up with me. And I'm going to close this by giving college staff a hand. Thank you very much. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.